you guess what this is? I'll give you some hints. It's a pod grown at the equator. Inside of this pod is a fruit with flavors reminiscent of mangoes and pears. This fruit encapsulates a seed, which tastes quite like a lychee nut. This pod is grown on the Theobroma tree. Theobroma translates to mean food of the gods. Would you be surprised to learn that this pod turns into this? Yes, chocolate, the world's most beloved treat. Chocolate starts with a seed that is dried into a cocoa bean, and these cocoa beans are transformed into chocolate bars using the bean to bar chocolate making process. Megan Giller, author of Bean to Bar Chocolate, America's Craft Revolution, writes, "It turns out chocolate doesn't appear out of the thin air, a gift from the food gods, but is coaxed from the fruit seed through a long, complicated process known as the bean to bar making process." I'm an amateur chocolate maker, and I have turned thousands of cocoa beans into chocolate bars just like this. Today, I will describe the intricate process of the bean to bar method that leads to the transformation of cocoa beans into the silky smooth melt-in-your-mouth candy known as chocolate. The bean to bar chocolate making process requires only 2 ingredients, cocoa beans and sugar. But making chocolate using this process requires time, care, and accuracy from both the farmer and the chocolate maker to extract the nuanced flavors from the cocoa bean while transforming it into a chocolate bar. There are 7 steps to the bean to bar making process. The first 3 steps are in the hands of farmers in Costa Rica, in Ghana, and Indonesia. The first step is the harvest. The Theobroma tree is harvested twice a year. The pods are harvested, and they are 8 to 14 inches in length, weigh around 14 ounces, and contain anywhere from 30 to 40 seeds. The second step in the bean to bar making process is fermentation. Fermentation is a flavor milestone. Fermentation develops the flavor of the seed and also reduces its astringency. The pods are broken open, and the fruit and seeds are scooped out and placed onto banana leaves in the open air. As soon as the air hits the fruit, the natural yeast in the air works to ferment the fruit and enhance its flavor. This can take up to 8 days, and only an experienced farmer knows exactly when fermentation has hit its peak. The third step in the bean to bar making process is drying. The beans are dried in the open air underneath the hot sun. The process of drying does 2 things. It encapsulates the flavor of the fermentation, and it also reduces the moisture in the seed, essentially turning the seed into a bean known as the cocoa bean. At this point, the farmer's work is done. The farmer has taken time, care through the harvest, the fermentation, and the drying process to nurture and preserve the cocoa bean's natural flavors. And the beans will be shipped to countries like Belgium, France, and the United States. This is a stage in the process where the chocolate maker takes over. The fourth step in the bean to bar making process is roasting. The chocolate maker will decide the length and temperature of roasting and use a barrel roaster like this to toast the beans to perfection. Each varietal of bean requires different times and temperatures, and the variables are endless. The roasted beans look like this after roasting. They consist of the bean as well as the outer, bitter, inedible husk. Now that the bean's flavor has been solidified through roasting, the last steps of the bean to bar process extract the part of the bean that is edible and most conducive to producing silky, smooth chocolate. The fifth step of the bean to bar making process is cracking and winnowing. Cracking the beans essentially just breaks them into smaller pieces, while winnowing will employ a fan to blow away the outer husks, which will leave the remaining part, the cocoa nibs. Cocoa nibs are nutty, earthy in flavor and are crunchy at this point. The nibs are composed of half cocoa solids and half cocoa butter. The sixth step in the bean to bar process is grinding and conching. It's a two-part grinding method. The cocoa nibs will be added to a melanger. A melanger is a machine that has two rolling granite rollers on top of a granite slab, which essentially will crush the nibs. The crushing of the nibs produce heat that helps to liquefy the cocoa butter in the nibs, creating a cocoa mass, which is a gritty chocolate paste. The second half of the grinding process is the conching method. This is where sugar is added. The melanger continues to grind and liquefy the chocolate paste, reducing the particles of the cocoa solids and the sugar so fine that the final product is smooth and silky when eaten. This can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. This leads us to the final step of the bean to bar making process, which is tempering and molding. The chocolate is heated and cooled to a specific temperature so that it sets with its characteristic glossy sheen as well as its snappy texture. And at this point, the chocolate is poured into molds, becomes shelf stable, and is ready to be eaten. In conclusion, the bean to bar process works to celebrate the natural potentials of the beans, grown worlds away from where we eat it, and cared for by farmers and chocolate makers from around the world. The bean to bar chocolate method produces the best tasting and highest quality chocolate around. Todd Macinas, a bean to bar chocolate maker from San Francisco, writes in Making Chocolate, "Cocoa farmers and chocolate makers are passionate about the same thing, the natural flavors and possibilities of a cocoa bean. We are fascinated about the whispers of citrus, roasted nuts, the coffee notes, hints of leather, and caramelized berries. And the bean to bar making process allows us to bring these flavors to you, our customer." Thank you.